Hello my friends.
Welcome to the trade district of Stormwind.
The balance changes introduced with patch 21.3 significantly changed the metagame in wild and standard formats. In this video, we will conduct a large review of the current state of both constructed formats, talk about new decks, determine the most effective archetypes, and finally talk about changes involving the best legendary cards for crafting.
A ton of interesting facts await you, so let's not waste a minute.
Let's start our overview with a short discussion of each class. The increase in Irebound Brute's mana cost reduced the effectiveness of quest-based Demon Hunter archetypes. The most effective decks are still strategies based on Deathrattle synergies. If you're already bored with the usual Deathrattle builds, we recommend giving Felrattle Demon Hunter a try. Despite the extremely low popularity of this deck, it has a very high win rate and can slightly diversify your experience. The deck is good against Questline Mage and Pirate Warrior. Also, the deck has a fairly low cost. You only need 2 legendary and 2 epic cards to craft it. In my opinion, the only drawback of this deck is that it can get boring to play quickly.
The Druid has a pool of 5 strategies for the standard format. Unfortunately, the effectiveness and popularity of Quest Druid has been gradually decreasing since its release. Anaconda Druid also shows a downward trend in efficiency. Miracle Druid is the most fun archetype, but also the least effective.
The most effective archetype in Standard is Aggro Druid. For this version of the deck, you need 4 epic cards and Greybow. The deck is excellent against almost all archetypes except Ping Mage and Questline Shaman. We want to draw your attention to another Druid deck. Clown Druid doesn't have impressive performance, but it at least mimics a control playstyle, while still being effective enough to climb to the legend rank. This is an old version of the deck that doesn't use the new cards from United in Stormwind at all.
In wild format, we recommend Druids join the Mechathune cult and test out a very fun new combo deck. We made a separate video with a short overview of the main synergies. Don't miss it.
The increase in the power level of Leatherworking Kit and Selective Breeder allowed Boar Hunter to return to the pool of Hunter decks, but the strategy didn't become more effective. Boar Hunter is the worst standard Hunter archetype. The old version of Face Hunter is still the best. This deck has hardly changed since the release of Forged in the Barrens. This makes Face Hunter games extremely uninteresting.
The best Wild Hunter deck is definitely Fresher. Odd Questline Hunter demonstrates a very high level of efficiency. If you love an aggressive style of play and are an owner of the Hunter Questline and Baku the Mooneater, then building this deck will be almost free for you.
Mage remains the most popular class in standard format, with Questline Mage being the most popular archetype in the game. In addition, the Mage received the most benefits from the balance changes. Reduced mana cost of Mordresh Fireeye and Wildfire was enough to revive Ping Mage strategies and even make them more competitive, but this was not enough for the archetype to be able to withstand most Tier 1 decks. Players are experimenting with different builds of this archetype, but this version of the deck has the highest win rate to date.
In Wild, the most popular archetype remains Fire Mage, which we talked about in our last overview of the metagame. We are also seeing the return of Quest Mage to the meta. According to HS Replay, Questline Mage is quite effective. In fact, this is almost the standard version of the archetype, with the exception of 2 copies of Ice Block. The drawback of the deck is the dependence on drawing spells of certain schools to advance the quest line. This makes the deck unstable at high ranks.
Nothing interesting is happening with the Paladin. They still have the best archetypes in standard mode. Secret Paladin and Buff Paladin are constantly competing for the title of best archetype. Secret Paladin is 3% ahead of its rival this week. The deck is good against almost all meta decks except Aggro Druid and Elemental Shaman. The only significant drawback of the deck is its high cost.
Priests are still at a very low point. Questline Priest remains the main archetype, but is also a Tier 4 deck. Priests have no other alternatives to play effectively except Aggro Shadow Priest. But even this archetype exhibits low win rates at high ranks. We recommend that you use the version of the deck from our previous meta review. The main advantage of this version is the absence of Mindrender Alusha. After changing the effect, the card has the lowest played win rate in decks, in other words, it is useless ballast.
In Wild format, I still prefer to play Boar Priest. This is the best Boar archetype in the game. This time I suggest you try a slightly modified version of the deck.
Rogue strategies are also some of the worst in standard format. Players prefer to use Garrote Rogue, but Quest Rogue has a slightly higher win rate. This archetype is good against all warlocks and most of the unpopular archetypes, but at the same time the deck is extremely weak against the most effective strategies such as Aggro Druid, Face Hunter, Deathrattle Demon Hunter, Secret Paladin, Pirate Warrior, Elemental Shaman and even Quest Mage.
Unlike Rogue, Shaman feels great in the standard meta. The class has several effective strategies to choose from. The nerfs weakened the Quest Shaman but didn't affect the Elemental Shaman in any way, which allowed him to become the most effective and popular Shaman archetype. The deck resists almost all archetypes well. Another benefit is cost, as you only need 1 legendary and 2 epic cards. If you are still not tired of playing with elemental synergies, this deck is a good choice in terms of cost effectiveness.
The Warlock has almost no strategies to choose from. The control archetype, which has returned to play after the nerfs, is showing disgusting results on the ladder. So you will still be forced to play using the questline strategy. The questline hand Warlock has a hard time fighting most popular decks, but it is the best thing that the Warlock currently has.
The fate of the Warlock in wild mode looks more positive. The full ban of Demon Seed allowed space for the even hand Warlock. This is one of the best wild format decks and will allow you to confidently reach legendary ranks. Your opponents will have to confront the giants in the early game, which at an unexpected moment can inflict fatal damage thanks to Windfury.
A few words about the Warrior. The improvement of the 3 pirates has expectedly led to an increase in the effectiveness and popularity of pirate strategies. To be honest, I absolutely don't understand this decision from developers. Warrior was by far the most unpopular class, but at the same time the pirate synergy was quite strong in both formats. I would prefer they buffed control tools instead of pirates. Pirate Warrior is the cheapest deck on our list. You only need 1 legendary card. The worst matchups of the deck are Aggro Druid and Handbuff Paladin.
In wild format, the Pirate Warrior is the most popular and effective archetype. This deck is perfect for fast ladder progress. But this strategy can get boring very quickly.
Now let's finally talk about the changes to the list of the best legendary cards to craft. Let's start with Forged in the Barrens. The crafting factor of Mordresh Fire Eye and Varden Dawn Grasp has increased by over 20%, making these cards back on the list of the best cards. According to our algorithm, the mechanics of these cards are generally loved by the players and are used throughout several expansion phases.
The efficiency of Lady Anaconda in the standard format has decreased, leading to a reduction of its crafting factor.
The crafting factor of Mutanus and Kazakus Golem Shaper has slightly increased.
Now let's move on to United in Stormwind. Raid the Docks became the best card in the set. The complete disappearance of the Demon Seed from wild mode and a decrease in efficiency resulted in a decrease in its crafting factor by 18%. The card still remains the main tool for the Warlock around which archetypes are built. But most likely Blizzard will no longer allow these mechanics to be popular and effective. As we already know, after the rotation of the Year of the Griffin sets, the Demon Seed will be completely redesigned and will again become available in wild format.
If you want to know more details about legendary cards that deserve a place in your collection, check out our previous video.
Let's get down to conclusions. The balance changes had the biggest impact on the wild format. The standard meta is dominated by aggro and mid-range decks. Unfortunately, there isn't enough room for control strategies. If you want to use a control deck at high ranks to advance up the ladder, you'll have to play the old version of Clown Druid. There are practically no other alternatives in standard format. United in Stormwind remains the most influential expansion, which is a good thing, but the current meta is starting to get boring. It's been 2 months since the expansion was released and now is the perfect time to release a mini-set that will diversify the game a little.
According to official information, the release of the mini-set will take place in the next major patch after the Mercenaries patch. Thus, we will have to wait at least a month or even longer for new cards.
It's a little sad. It looks like I will spend the next week mostly in Wild, and then move to Mercenaries mode for a while.
By the way, a few words about the new mode. Trump has launched the Mercenaries gameplay video series. We got the impression that the developers have slightly changed the approach to its monetization. First, the XP reward per game has been increased, and it looks like the first and second campfire upgrade will cost 600 gold, while the travel point upgrade will only cost 200 gold coins. In addition, we learn that players will receive 153 Mercenaries packs for free as a reward for completing tasks. If all these changes are confirmed in the final version of Mercenaries, we will have no fears about the future monetization of the new mode.
Finally, we would like to know your impressions of the current standard and wild metagame.
Do you think these balance changes are enough? Share your opinion in the comments, and also join the vote on our community tab.
We will be extremely grateful to you for liking and subscribing to the channel as well as for turning on all notifications using the bell icon. You can also join our squad of loyal patrons and help us create new videos.
Dear friends, from all of my robotic heart, thank you so much for any kind of support.
Alright, that's all for today. Thank you for being with us.
And special thanks to Chris for his invaluable help.
We will definitely meet in a new video. Good luck.
What?